I think the ridiculous notion is for either one of you all to have the audacity to believe that you understand what the experience has to be.
I have to object to that.
But
I cannot talk about it because I am not part of the group. I am a sentient human being. You're right. There's two ways you cannot understand something. One is to be too far from it. We're too far from it. We can't see like you can. One is to be too close to something. And then sometimes you can't see it accurately either.
You know, sometimes you watch a political debate or a panel discussion and you can practically feel the tension through the screen. And then there are those rare moments when someone cuts through all the noise and exposes the nonsense for what it really is. That's exactly what happened when Bill Maher, yes, the same Bill Maher who used to be the darling of the left, decided he was done playing nice. Now, let's be real, Bill Maher has never been the type to shy away from controversy. Love him or hate him, the guy has a knack for cutting through the fluff and hitting people where it hurts, their arguments. And in this particular episode, he absolutely torched the woke talking points that were being thrown around. I mean, he didn't just push back politely, he ripped the mask off, exposed the weakness of their narrative, and left his guests scrambling for words. And here's the kicker, this isn't some one-off moment, it's part of a much bigger trend. Maher has slowly but very publicly been drifting further and further away from the modern left. He used to be their guy, anti-Bush, progressive causes, always taking shots at Republicans, but now he's in open war with the woke crowd, and it's not subtle. He's basically exiled himself from the liberal establishment. So let's talk about what actually went down here. The debate kicked off with something as silly as those end racism messages plastered across NFL fields during the height of the woke craze. Remember that for a couple of years, you couldn't watch a football game without being reminded of your moral obligations by the end zone paint job. Like, yeah, nothing says Sunday fun like being lectured in between touchdowns. But here's the thing, those slogans weren't solving anything, and that's exactly what Maher pointed out. When his guest, Tara Palmieri, tried to defend the practice, Bill cut right through it. He basically asked the question we've all wanted to ask, who is this for? Seriously, if someone is actually...
Notice that at the Super Bowl, for the first time in, I think, 4 years now, the Trump administration is making them take away end racism, which they had written in the end zone, right?
Why? It just seems silly. I mean,
to do it or not to do it?
Why get rid of it?
Oh, I could tell you why.
I know, but it's just like
because it was stupid to begin with.
Yeah, but
let me ask you, who's it for? And if you're a racist and you see end racism in the end zone, you're going to stop being a racist?
Maher's point was brutally simple. Slogans don't change reality. They don't make racists less racist, and they don't make non-racists more virtuous. They're empty gestures. And when you think about it, that's been the playbook of the woke movement for years. Slap a hashtag on it, throw a rainbow filter on your profile picture, put a slogan on a t-shirt, and call it progress. Meanwhile, real issues, crime, inflation, border security, foreign policy, get shoved to the side because those things are actually hard to solve. And here's where it gets interesting. The reason we're seeing fewer of these hollow slogans in big corporate spaces is because, shocker, the public is over it. Companies finally figured out that bowing to the Twitter mob doesn't actually sell more products, it doesn't make customers happier, it just alienates half their audience. That's why end racism mysteriously vanished from the Super Bowl field, not because Trump snapped his fingers, not because the NFL suddenly grew a conscience, but because corporations realized the performative pandering was backfiring.
It's basically like, don't be
But I think it's to nag us during the football game about something that doesn't change anything or anything. If I'm not a racist and I see it, it doesn't matter. And if I am a racist, it's going to make me more of a racist.
Like, I think if you write "don't be an on the end zone," everybody would agree with that.
Maher nailed that point. When the mob loses its grip and the outrage machine stops being scary, companies go right back to business as usual. It was never about solving racism, it was about protecting themselves from online backlash. Now, let's pause for a second. Do you agree with Maher? Drop a comment below and let me know, because I know some people are going to say, well, awareness matters. Sure, but awareness without action is just noise. And honestly, most Americans are sick of being nagged during football games. Sports used to be an escape, a way to come together, but woke politics turned it into a lecture hall. But that wasn't the only mic drop moment from Ma. Oh no, he wasn't done. Things got even spicier when Barry Sears tried to argue that people outside of a racial group could never understand the experiences of that group. Classic argument, right? You hear it all the.
I think the ridiculous notion is for either one of you all to have the audacity to believe that you understand what the experience has to be.
I have to object to that. But I cannot talk about it because I am not part of the group. I am a sentient human being. You're right. There's two ways you cannot understand something. One is to be too far from it. We're too far from it. We can't see like you can. One is to be too close to something. And then sometimes you can't see it accurately either.
Think about that for a second. That's a perspective you almost never hear in these conversations. We're always told that proximity equals truth, that lived experience is the only valid evidence. But Ma pointed out the obvious: if you're completely immersed in something, you might actually lose perspective. You might exaggerate it, distort it, or miss the bigger picture. That's not a popular thing to say, but it's true, and it was a gutsy move to say it on air, especially in front of someone whose father literally lived through the civil rights movement.
Well, all you have to do is ask my father, who literally was shot in the Orangeburg Massacre, right? Who helped found SNCC, who marched with Marion Barry and Stokely Carmichael and Martin Luther King. The list goes on and on and on. And he will tell you today that he feels like this country's in 1954. And so if you want to talk about somebody...
That doesn't mean it is. Well, you said he feels that. That's ridiculous.
But Maher didn't back down. He basically said, look, I respect that experience, but it's just not true to say that Black Americans in 2024 are living the same reality as Black Americans in 1954 Alabama. That's crazy.
I'm not too close to something. I am that. I know. So, but what I am saying though is for you to discount my father's experience and say
I'm not discounting
and to say it was silly.
I'm not.
No, well, he was shot. No,
were you shot?
No, but he's still alive. Like
okay.
right here. Like,
right, but the idea that if I were to say to you as a Jew that the experience of Jews in the United States today is worse than the experience of Jews in Europe in 1939, I would not be stating accurately. Right. It's not true. And it's also not true to say that the experience of Black people in America in 2024 is worse on a general level than the experience of Black men in 1954 in Alabama. It's just crazy.
And he's right. Does racism exist? Of course. Are there challenges? Absolutely. But pretending America hasn't made enormous progress is dishonest. We've had a Black president, not once but twice. We've had Black Supreme Court justices, Black senators, Black billionaires, Black CEOs, and now even a Black female vice president. Opportunities that were unimaginable in the 1960s are now reality. That doesn't mean everything is perfect, but it does mean the narrative that nothing has changed is flat out false.
A bunch of privileged, mean girls complaining about privilege and trying to make fetch happen. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism. Yes, if only we weren't so irredeemably unenlightened, we would have elected a Black president by now. Oh, what, we did? Oh, right, and then re-elected him. Maybe you missed it because it wasn't on TikTok.
And here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of activists don't want to admit progress because their power depends on maintaining the narrative of oppression. If people start believing that America has actually made real strides, then suddenly the constant outrage machine loses steam. The speeches, the fundraising, and the media gigs all dry up. That's why these professional outrage merchants keep peddling the idea that we're still stuck in the 1950s. Maher basically called their bluff, and that's what makes this so powerful. Now let's talk about the bigger picture here. What we're seeing is a collapse of the old Democratic strategy. For years, the left has leaned on identity politics as their go-to move, dividing people into categories, pitting them against each other, and framing every issue through race or gender.
And they actually see women and people of color, and it doesn't look like some patriarchal racist nightmare. Kamala spent 100 days telling voters, I know it feels like crime and illegal immigration are bad, but your feelings, look at this chart. Yes, There's a lot to not like already about the new regime, but maybe take 1 week to ask what you did wrong. The basis for Democratic campaigns has become, we're the smart people. That we know from the get.
People don't care about slogans. They care about the cost of groceries. They care about whether their kids are safe walking to school. They care about whether they can afford rent or gas. And the Democratic Party's obsession with pronouns, with cancel culture, with lectures on privilege, it just doesn't resonate with real life. That's why they keep losing ground. Hillary didn't lose because she was a woman. Kamala Harris didn't become wildly unpopular because she's a woman of color. They lost traction because they didn't connect with real issues. Bill Maher said it best, Democrats run campaigns like the voters don't live here. They act like average Americans are just too dumb to get it, too backward to appreciate their brilliance. And that arrogance bleeds through everything they do. It's condescending, it's elitist, and it's exactly why so many voters have turned their backs on the left.
Sexism? Hillary got 3 million more votes than Trump, which in a normal country would be called a victory. It wasn't 21st century sexism that prevented a woman from being president. It was the Electoral College. Democrats run for office as if the voters don't live here, as if they don't go to the grocery store and Starbucks and the office, but they do. They live here.
But here's the million-dollar question. Do you think the Democrats will change, or will they double down on the same failed strategy? Honestly, I think they're too addicted to the playbook. They've convinced themselves that if they just lecture harder, shame louder, and call more people racist, eventually they'll win. Spoiler alert, they won't. Maher sees it, more and more Americans see it, and that's why moments like this matter, because they expose the hollowness of the slogans, the emptiness of the outrage, and the arrogance of the people pushing it. At the end of the day, America isn't the nightmare the woke left keeps painting it to be. Is it perfect? No. But it's far better than the cartoon version activists want you to believe. And if we want real progress, we need solutions, not slogans. So let's wrap this up. Bill Maher may not be perfect, and he may not even be consistent all the time, but when he calls out the BS, he deserves credit, because too many people are still too afraid to say what he just said. And the fact that it came from Maher, a guy who used to be embraced by the left, makes it all the more damning. But hey, I want to know what you think. Did Maher go too far? Or is he the only one in that room actually speaking the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'll be reading. And before you go, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with a friend who's tired of empty slogans. Trust me, this conversation is just getting started, and you don't want to miss what's coming next.